Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360, and on this episode of the program, we'll be reviewing the Ekiti State governorship election that happened recently. Now, that election has come and gone, and of course, there's a winner and there are losers. During the exercise, which took place in 16 local government areas of the state, 365,438 voters were accredited for the process, out of which 351,865 persons voted. Now, their votes were considered valid. Now, for the invalid votes, it is 8,888. At the end of the process, the candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Biodun Oyebanji, was officially declared the winner after polling 187,057 votes to defeat his closest challengers, Shegwoni of the Social Democratic Party, PDP, who, of course, I must confess, surprised that he came second by polling 82,211 votes. And BC Kolawole of the People's Democratic Party, a lot of people had expected that that party was going to do well, but then it came third, and the candidate scored 67,457 votes. However, the routing of the Social Democratic Party and the People's Democratic Party by the ruling All Progressives, or the governing All Progressives Congress now in that state, will remain on the lips of many in the weeks to come. Contrary to what people had predicted, the APC performed beyond expectations. The ruling party won in 15 of the 16 local government areas of the state with huge margins. Interestingly, the winner's closest rival now, SDP's Shegwoni, did not win in any local government area of the state. He even lost his own Idosi local government area to the APC. Only the PDP's BC Kolawole managed to secure his own F1 local government area to prevent a clean sweep by the APC. So, but there's one big talking point arising from that election: vote buying. We shall be discussing that in the course of this program. But let's quickly take a short break now. And when we come back, I'll have some guests join me on the program to analyze the results of the election and then look at what happened during that process. Stay with us, don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians have said in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.
All right, welcome back. And I'm now being joined on the program by 3 distinguished gentlemen. I have here in the studio Libros Oshoma, who is a political affairs analyst and also a legal practitioner. I also have Nelson Ekojimi, who is a political affairs analyst as well. And joining us from Abuja is Omori Aigbe, who is, of course, a public affairs analyst and also an observer during the election. And let me just say, Nelson Ekojimi observed the election as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. And let me start with you, Omori, in Abuja. You look at this result, you look at the outcome. Are you surprised at the outcome of the results? I mean, Oyebanji polling this number of votes, and you look at the distance between his votes now and the man who came second. Even though you don't have so many votes here, but then the distance is quite huge.
Well, I listened to your commentaries, the opening comment. I'm sure you were also surprised. Everyone was surprised. In fact, I was really surprised, having monitored the electoral environment in that election, beginning from when polling started, beginning from when campaigns were lifted up till the Friday or Thursday when campaign shut down, you would see that the atmosphere was a bit charged. People talked about the opposition candidate a lot, and it was almost getting to the point that the opposition candidate...
And when you say opposition candidate now, which of the opposition candidates would you be talking about?
The former governor of the state, SDP.
Oh, okay.
It was more like around everyone was talking about that candidate, and it was also looking like the other parties were not campaigning. And arguably, the only ones you see on the street were really about the SDP and a couple of APC, but you wouldn't see even the PDP in any kind of engagement. The week of the election, on Tuesday, APC had a mega rally. On Thursday, SDP had their own mega rally. There was no mega rally for the PDP. And of course, what happened, I'm happy you brought in the component of vote buying, which for me and for us was a game changer. On Tuesday, at the mega rally of the party, APC, the political leader of the party made a very strong statement that if people want to have money, they should go and vote. That if they don't vote, they won't get money. That statement. So
are you by any chance suggesting that the outcome of this election was determined by vote buying?
No. Arguably, with confidence level beyond 75%.
All right, let me just pause you there and let me come to the gentleman here. Let me start with you, Liberos. You look at it, for me, I thought the PDP was going to do very well. And, you know, of course, Shegwoni has a name, but you look at the party, many people didn't give his party a chance. So what's your own take from these results you're seeing?
Yeah, while vote buying will play a major role, but the outcome was not determined by vote buying. I would disagree with that position because, like they say, you will only rig election in a place where you are popular. And agreed, you know, first and foremost, what you need to look at was the fact that unlike the PDP when Fayose was the governor, it is not the same PDP that you have today. And so Fayose, you could naturally call a leader of the party, was nowhere to be found. And then Shegwoni was a former governor in the state. So consistently, he had structures. And he could definitely then also took some PDP structures with him because the candidate of the PDP also was not, you know, a popular candidate among the party. And so that also affected the chances of PDP. And Shegwoni also had not been consistent with the SDP. And so that's also reduced, as popular as it was, you know, like you said, the structure of the party played a key role. Sure. What was the structure of the party at the ward level, at the local government level? And for the APC, they had a sitting governor, they had chairman at every ward, and they had local government chairman also. And mind you, the governor will always give instruction, go win your state. If you do not go win your ward, if you do not win your ward, there will be no money for you. There will be no positions to share. So all of this played a very key role. And of course, we all know it was in this same Ekiti that they started Edibo Sebe. And so vote buying was not a new thing.
That was the last election.
Yes, it wasn't a new thing, but they took it a notch further. But it wasn't. The election was not determined.
Okay, I think Edibo Kesebe, that would be Ondo State. But let me get
but it played a key role also in Ekiti.
Yeah. So Nelson, let me get your take on that.
Yes, my take on it is that we never expected the margin between the winner and the two runners-up to have been this wide. I was in Ekiti days before the election, and you know, we all knew it was a two-horse race between the APC and the PDP. Don't forget, like we also...
And the PDP, not the SDP.
Sorry,
okay.
APC and the SDP. The PDP candidate was nowhere. Like he rightly said, the APC had a mega rally at the venue on Tuesday, while the SDP had theirs on Thursday. So we knew it would be a close battle between the two front-line candidates. I was Oyebanji and Shegwoni. But lo, when the results came out, all of us were surprised because some of the people that went with Shegwoni were people he pulled away from PDP when he was when he left because
yeah.
he lost the gubernatorial primary. As well as those people, even in APC, whose candidate lost to Oyebanje in the primary of the party. But looking at what played out, you could, like Liberals has rightly said, this is a party that had all the structure from the lowest level up to the governorship, governor. So it is not surprising that the APC came out top. So we expected it, but this wide margin surprised everybody. And for anybody to come and say it's because votes were bought that, you know, it influenced the election greatly, I totally disagree. Because when you go to some of the other local governments, except in Ekiti, the state capital, the issue of vote buying was almost non-existent. Where we had vote buying was just in some areas in the state capital. And you and I know that the state capital is more of a cosmopolitan area. But in the villages, in the rural areas, people were voting as if they were choosing their kingmaker. They were like, oh, this is our honorable. We are going to follow him. So some of us that went as far as the rural areas, we didn't see anybody buying any votes.
Okay, let's even leave the issue of vote buying now. We look at the results. 16 local government areas, Liberals. 16 local government area, there you have them. The APC winning in 15. And the only one that the APC didn't win, of course, will be Efon-Alaye, where the PDP got 6,303 votes and the APC getting 4,012 votes there.
And so if you look at the statistics and the data, the figures, it's obvious from Efon-Alaye. Yeah, we're saying now that, oh, PDP bought more votes in this local government than the APC. It's the fact that the candidate is from that local government. And so the people felt they were choosing their kingmaker, as son, to become a king, you know, in the next dispensation. But if you look at the other local government, because
yes, this is the man who won now. Let's look at his local government, Ekiti West.
Yes,
he got 15,322 votes.
Because for them, you know, the election in Nigeria, it's like the moment you are appointed into government today, even people you have not seen for years will come celebrate you and congratulate you. It's like it's our turn to eat. So the people from Ekiti West will see, oh, this is our turn, and we must support our son massively. Depending also, if you look at the population of this area, definitely Ekiti West is massively populated than Efon-Alaye. And then, also if you look at the statistics, like I had said, this is a party that had ward chairmen, secretaries, local government. This is a party in power. And they had commissioners, they have special advisors, and you know, so there is something to give.
Okay, let me just pause you there and bring in let's bring in Omori Aigbe. Omori Aigbe, you look at these results, you look at the outcome. There's one result I want us to look at. Let me flip to the next page now, and that is that of Idosi, where the candidate of the SDP comes from. In Idosi local government area, the SDP man didn't win it, but he got quite a number of votes there, polling 9,489, losing narrowly to the APC candidate who got 10,321 votes. How do you explain that?
You see, I am happy that my colleagues on the studio had, I'm happy they were on the ground, so let me speak directly. So if Oshoma, my brother Oshoma said that the people in the local government will vote for their person because it is time to eat. So why are you not seeing the same data in Idosi? Does that make any sense at all? That the people in Idosi did not like their person? That is what I see you talk about. Well, with all due respect, we deployed observers across the 16 local governments, and when we speak concerning observer response across the board. In fact, you said Ado was not the only local government. In any way, nobody can move from
let me just quickly say something about Ado Ekiti there. That's actually where you have the highest number of registered voters. And for any election in Ekiti State at all, any governorship election, most likely whoever wins Ado Ekiti wins the election, and somehow that's how it's played out. And you look at Ado Ekiti, you look at the results, you would say it was like a tough fight between it was a tough fight now between the APC and the SDP.
Yes, I'm going somewhere. If you then argue that people who bought votes in Ado Ekiti, in Ado, so both of them actually, when we say vote buying, we are not accusing APC of buying votes. All the parties, including the PDP, paid for votes. And there are evidence for that. I could share with you pictures, videos, evidences of people who took money, young people who took money to vote in that election.
So now, when you say all the parties paid for votes, so is this a case of people collecting money and then going on to vote their conscience? Because they collected money from all the parties anyway.
Yes, there are some that did pre-financing, prepaid. Some parties paid on a Friday. Other parties paid on a Saturday. Most people who bought vote more wanted to see they wanted to see the ballot. In specific, I don't want to mention local government because we are analyzing the view. In polling units where votes were majorly bought, the voter had to show their ballot. I can share with you those pictures. I can share with you evidences of people under the canopy who were buying votes directly. You show, you get a tag, you get a voter tag, I mean a payment tag, you move to a certain location to be paid. That was the narrative, and it's across the board. Maybe some pay 5,000, some pay 7, some pay 10.
So in this case, you're trying to say that, well, there's a likelihood that one party paid more than the other, and because one party paid more than the other, it got probably more votes.
I cannot say that. I'm saying he played a role. I'm just saying that he was a game changer. Don't forget, there was very strong.
Okay. Just let me pause you there and bring in Nelson to speak to that, because we're looking at the results here. Let's look at the result of the local government of that's the local government of the candidate of PDP, F1 yes. Okay, he won it. He won it, and. Of course, the local government of Oni, he lost it.
He lost it.
Yes.
Narrowly.
Narrowly, yes.
And again, for us to debunk the issue of vote buying, that it played a prominent role, I'll give you a vivid scenario. There was a voter who came and told us that he collected 5,000 from Party A, he collected another 5,000 from Party B, he now collected 2,000 from Party C. So, can you tell me which party that voter voted for? That means people saw it just like in every election. In fact, on most election days, major stakeholders see that day as a festival where they can take money and go and make merry. Even security agencies are all involved. So when you come and say the election was influenced by vote buying, if somebody has collected money from 3 political parties, can we decipher which party he voted for that made him to vote more? Because he collected the same amount of money from...
Sorry, no, even Deji, let me throw more light. Because my brother accused me, he referred to Idosi.
Idosi, yes.
Mind you, SDP, the SDP candidate was in PDP.
Yes.
Because he wasn't given the party ticket, or he didn't win the party. He lost the party ticket. He moved to SDP.
Yes.
And so he had divided the vote of the PDP. Mind you, some people will still remain in PDP, whether you like it or not. So if he had remained in PDP, add the 2,000 plus vote to the 9,000 vote he scored, he definitely would have beaten APC. Blue Black. Maybe. We're looking at
just go on, yes.
In Idosi, that is his local government. Definitely he was coming from a party. And mind you, in this same local government, Idosi local government, remember the Idosi miracle?
Yes. Exactly.
This same Idosi local government, you have a commissioner from that local government. You have a local government chairman. You have special advisors. You had essays to governor in that local government. Definitely, and I am happy that my brother had said both candidates, both parties, all parties
across board
bought vote. My point of the departure is that if everybody bought vote, the result was not determined by that vote buying. It was determined by the fact that some parties were more on ground than the others. Because if it was about vote buying, the SDP wouldn't have come second. The PDP probably definitely had more money to buy votes than the SDP. But because the SDP candidate was a former governor, he had more people on ground. He's been a consistent politician. Unlike the PDP candidate, who is not too known in the state. People didn't even expect him to win the primaries. And some people even felt that the party leadership had to compromise the election by giving him the ticket because he wasn't popular. So if you put all of these figures together, everybody spends vote, and people were waiting to collect from all parties.
Anyway, but I honestly don't want us to dwell so much on this issue of vote buying. Of course, there was vote buying, no question at all.
Yes.
No question. But let's look at the number of votes now from the senatorial district. So you have 3 senatorial districts in Ekiti. You have Ekiti South, Ekiti North, and Ekiti Central. And, you know, whether you like it or not, these elections usually would be fought along local government lines and then along senatorial district lines. So you have the breakdown there. You look at it. The APC won across all the senatorial district. Let me come to you now, Nelson. Look at these results. You look at, just help us to understand this. In Ekiti South, where you have these local government areas now, the APC polling 60,000. Yeah. Not surprising for Ekiti Central, because that's the area where you have the concentration of voters.
Yes,
the highest number of voters. The APC polling 64,000 there. But look at the PDP still managed to get 30,000 in the central. But you look at these votes now across board. It would appear the SDP lost across the senatorial districts.
Yes, that tells you clearly, like we used to say, that politics is local. You look at the Ekiti South, where we have Ekiti East, you have Ikere. That Ikere is where the Speaker of the State House of Assembly comes from. And like Libros rightly said, we have commissioners who are from that local government, those local governments under that senatorial zone. You have special advisors, you have members of boards there. You come to Ekiti North. This is where the sitting governor comes from. That's Governor Ekiti Fayemi. You know, Ilejemeje, Moba. You know, this is an area where you have the party also has the strength based on.
And the candidate of the SDP
is from Idosi. And if you recollect the magic of Idosi, you can see that magic did not resurrect. Yeah. That tells you clearly that the temperature has changed. Then you come to Ekiti Central, where we expected a keen contest because
the two candidates, PDP and the APC candidate.
Yes, they are from Ekiti Central, and lo and behold, the APC candidate, look at the margin, 64,000 to the SDP 30,000.
So Liberals, you look at that result. Let's concentrate on that Ekiti Central now. You look at the results there. You clearly would see that the APC and the PDP actually dominated there. Could we say it's because the candidates, these two candidates who got those votes now are from that senatorial district?
Yes, definitely. Because you look at the Fualaye, where the PDP candidate won the election. Yeah. So if you look at the margin, at about 2,000 plus votes.
And the voting
population in that place. And then you add it to Ado Ekiti population, and the margin with which the APC candidate, more than close to, I think about 15,000 votes, with the APC candidate led both the PDP and the SDP candidate. So if that's why these figures are very high. Even if you add the PDP and the APC and the SDP candidate votes together, it will still not have defeated the APC candidate, you know, in Ekiti Central, because of the large population in Ado Ekiti and the margin with which the APC, you know, defeated both parties in Ado Ekiti. And then something very instructive. You remember, if you remember the Omoborowo era of 1983 in Ijero Ekiti, you know, these are not people you will naturally say, oh, they will be swayed by how much you brought. They will collect your money, but at the end of the day, vote their conscience. Ijero people, right from, if you remember the Omoborowo issue, Omoborowo was declared as winner. And they said, look, even though you are one of us, we didn't vote for you. His father's house was burnt in Ijero in 1983. So these are the same people we're talking about today. So these are not people you will naturally say are swayed by. Yeah, there was massive, you know, money deployed in Ekiti election. Everybody came to spend money. And Nigerian election over time consistently and heavily monetized.
I understand.
So, but then, then, people also are more aware and more interested in participating in leadership selection today. And so that is why you see these numbers rising a little bit higher than it was before.
You look at this election across the senatorial district. Ekiti North and Ekiti Central, that's where the three candidates come from. So essentially we could say Ekiti South was a neutral ground. How would you look at the way the election played out in Ekiti South now? What would be your take on it? Because it was essentially a neutral ground, so to speak, because none of the three major candidates are from that senatorial district.
Figures like this, you are swayed to move in certain direction. It is clear that all of the votes you saw, each of them got, these were genuine votes because the process cannot be rigged. My brother mentioned that you don't use money to rig election. Rigging election is different. When you buy votes, you are not necessarily rigging an election. What has happened is I'm also happy that you have agreed, my brother Oshoman agreed that there was massive deployment of money in the election. I can give you, my brother said, my other colleague said, that if a certain voter collected money from the three political parties and arguably voted a conscience. I will give you another story. A woman who said she would love to vote for SDP, but her SDP, what they brought was too small, that she has collected it. But that she needed to vote the person she eventually voted for because she needed to pay school fees. There was a weaponization of poverty or whatever you call it, linking up to a comment that if you don't vote, you won't get money. Many young people who we spoke to in Ado went to vote based on fun. They wanted to collect money. It wasn't because the money will feed them, it was fun. One of the videos I probably will share with you, Mr. DEJI, is two young girls who were flagging their money and getting excited because they paid the money.
I think I've seen that video. But what I'm asking is this. You look at this neutral ground, you think it's the outcome of money?
So neutral ground, forget it whether it's battleground, whether it's neutral ground. When you do your mapping, everything you saw in this data is a result of research. It's a result of mapping. In one particular polling unit, the polling box was stolen around 4 p.m. in a federal housing estate in Ado around 4 p.m. Ward 7 polling unit 2 because the party agent who was given 3 million naira ran away with the money to buy vote. At some point, the vote was changing. Another group came and destroyed the process and took away the ballot box. And there was no vote from that area. So it's a result of mapping. You just map this. Election has gone beyond thinking that you vote for me. People are not spending money in campaigns anymore.
So they keep the money until election. They keep the money until election day. But just because of time now, well, you still have the results there. Ekiti Central, of course, you have, as I said, both candidates from Ekiti Central. You look at the way the result turned out in Ekiti Central. What would be your assessment of it? Because both of them, the candidate of the APC and the candidate of the PDP, both of them are from Ekiti Central.
So just to know, people were looking at...
That's Ekiti Central Senatorial District, yeah.
That went into the election. One of the fake news was that the former Governor Fayoshe, has sold out PDP to the APC. That there were even strong commentaries.
But mind you, these are allegations. These are just allegations, nothing proven.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's fake news. We debunked it. That was fake. It was intended to sway voters. What is the intention of fake news or disinformation? To sway voters. So part of what has happened is between these two, one will be popular. I agree. People voted their conscience. Some persons were mobilized by their conscience were bought. Either way, whoever has won this election, in all honesty, before we shut down, to also say that the electoral process has been cleaned up enough. You can no longer manipulate the election results. You can no longer manipulate the processes at the collation point or at the point of declaring a candidate. If you see this election, nobody has accused INEC of any manipulative tendency. The people voted in the election, and whether they collect money or they voted their conscience, that result is true, and I make both to say that result is true. But people were influenced. And I continue, we say that because of the evidence.
People will always be
okay, people, because I was just going to say, no, but people will always, people have always been influenced in elections in this country.
We had 2,455 polling units. Can we ask him how many they deployed?
No,
hold on. Because if you want to say a process has been mad, you must have your statistics. Say maybe over 70% of the polling stations. Do they have the spread around 70% of the polling stations and to give us this facts?
Like we all agree, INEC had taken this process a notch further. Yeah. So the process of going to manipulate the votes at the collation center
is no more
there. So what the politicians have done now is to try to outdo themselves at the polling unit. Let me see how I can, induce people with money and with sweet talks, with fake news, and do whatever you need to do to win people to your side. But it does not start and end on election day.
Yes.
What was the essence of a massive rally? What was the essence of reaching out to people? What was the essence of
the campaigns
and talking to people and, having agents at polling units, having party structures at every ward level to reach out and maintaining consistently the relationship that you have with voters. Yes. It is these people that will help to reach out people for you. So that's why, that's why now INEC had taken the process back to the politicians. So what the politicians are basically doing now, if you are in government, we also should not rule out the area of good governance and all of this, because government seems to be the only, biggest employer of labor, distribution of largesse now. So we also cannot rule out all of this relationship in any election. That's why people are massively going out now to register to collect a permanent voter's card. So yes, people will give you money. People will collect money because to them they see this as opportunity. This is the only time we see the politicians. But can we say that this wide margin was as a result of the fact that, this party gave more money, that was why people supported? Absolutely. That's where I disagree. Yes. I said, no, everybody gave, but you will relate more with the government
the election in most areas was more about, people saw it as crowning their own. That is why you can see that in Ekiti West, the APC candidate had about 11,000 to 3,000 for the other party. They saw him as their own. I was in Ekiti, for example, where we have a senator, as well as a former governor and the minister for trade and investment, where people see, wherever this is our own, we must rally around him. So it was not about money. Influence in terms of the personalities of where they come from also played a key role. So for anybody to come and tell me that the election was influenced majorly by money, I disagree absolutely.
And quickly, mind you also, when you have a ruling party, both at the state and at the center, mind you, this ruling party will have favors to dispense at the center. There are some persons who are at the center who also, mind you, have a sitting governor who was a former minister. Definitely, there are people who still owe him that favor. Mind you, he's trying to crown, one of his also.
I understand that because I understand vote buying was a big issue in that election.
Yes, it was, but I will not subscribe to the fact that the margin was as a result of...
Yes, I also want to do... I want us to do some sort of analysis of the results. And let's look at local government now with the highest number of registered voters. Not in any way surprising. At Ekiti, could you help us to explain the outcome of the election there? The winner, of course, polling 23,000. The SDP did very well there by polling 15,000. How do you explain the poor performance of the PDP in Ekiti?
It's clear. Look, whether it's a rumor or not, or whether it was meant to sway votes, the PDP, thank God, my brother Igbe also said it, the PDP was nowhere to be found during campaigns. And so if we are also talking about deploying money for votes, where were they in the scheme of things? So when you are not campaigning, you're also not doing what others are doing, how do you not expect to win votes? The structure, the PDP party structure, whether it's a rumor or not, it was clear that something was patently not right with the structure. Oni had been also a strong financier of the party.
Could we say it's because probably the PDP fielded a candidate that
was not popular? The
such?
candidate, that's why I started by saying you only rig election in places where you are popular. Otherwise, you deploy your money, people will collect it and vote for the popular candidate. People will tell you, I don't want to waste my votes. We've heard that also. We hear that on the feed. I don't want to waste my vote. So if the candidate is not popular and they do not see him as somebody who is relatable, and also the party, mind you, some of the party members also saw him as somebody that was imposed on them. And so they left. So having left with Oni, and then also coupled with the fact that the party structures were not visible to campaign for him, you don't expect. I am even surprised that he could put the number of votes.
No, but 7,000 is quite poor to be candidate.
No, but because you're looking at it from the ruling party angle. But if it was not a PDP and you have a candidate that was relatively if it was not even in PDP, he wouldn't have scored up to 7,000 votes in that local government.
Honestly, that was a poor result. Omori, if you're still there with us, how would you explain this poor performance of the PDP in Ado-Ekiti local government area? Because whether we like it or not, the reason why local government areas like that are very important in elections is because that's where you have this huge concentration of voters. And, parties will naturally spend big in these local government areas, whether in terms of campaigns and all of that. But surprisingly, the PDP did very, very poorly there.
So, it's evident. I will re-echo, already acknowledged by my co-colleagues on the platform, is that there are structural issues. Find the party in power had all of the structures and all of that, but also note it is the same Ado where you have the beehive of the many people who, whether it was going to be St. Michael Primary School or it was one of those locations where I can't remember names now on top of my head, people were monitored. There was some guarding, there was some influence. You don't want to use the influence of money, but let me run away from the influence of money. People knew that tomorrow, once you come back, you will achieve a lot of other things. Don't also forget, it was in Ado-Ekiti where the mega campaign rally took place, where the campaign bigwigs made the comment that if you don't vote, you won't get money.
No, but what I'm asking, what I'm asking is, how do you explain the poor performance? Is it that the PDP didn't campaign big there, or the PDP didn't spend money there, so to speak?
In my first comment, I told you that across the state, the campaign in Ekiti was low-key. From 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the election, you will literally imagine, is this an election state? Campaigns were not on. You could not even see any campaign on the ground. I mean, 3 weeks ago in Osun, we saw campaigns from the major parties. These are usual campaign block major roads and all of that. Well, in Osun, that the election is 2 weeks ahead. 3 weeks ago, we saw. In Ekiti, it wasn't more like a big deal until the mega rally that took place, only 2. So if there was no those level of conscientization, Wigo campaigns, the mosquito campaigns, the elderly campaigns, all of those campaigns, you didn't bring it in, like Brother Showman said. And you also didn't do what other people are doing, or you brought the cheapest of the money, you won't get the votes.
Well,
so
I understand your point. It will be very surprising that the PDP didn't have enough money to spend on voters. But let's quickly take a short break now. When we come back, I'll get the input of Nelson now on what actually would have happened to the PDP in Ado-Ekiti. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension
president must see himself as the president of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On DEJI360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians have said in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
DEJI360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, we are doing a review now of the Ekiti State gubernatorial election. And in the studio with me, Libros Oshoma, who is a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. I also have Nelson Ekujimi, who is a political affairs analyst and, of course, observed that election. And in Abuja, joining us via Skype, we have Omori Aigbe, who also monitored the election. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Nelson, we were talking about at Ekiti before we went on break. You heard what Omori had to say. How do you explain? Because it still baffles me that the PDP, the former governing party in that state, would do so badly in the local government that has the highest number of registered voters, and that is an urban center in that state.
Well, the reason is not far-fetched, and it is because people could not relate with the gubernatorial candidate of the PDP. And even as at that, the party was not on ground to familiarize itself with the party, with the people. Even for them to have scored this number of votes, I'm surprised, because when you go around the state days before the election, the PDP was virtually not campaigning. We even expected a close call between the APC and the SDP. We knew quite all right that the PDP was not in the picture. So it is about bringing in an unpopular candidate. And for them to have scored this number, that also tells you clearly that the party still has a structure in place. Because if this candidate was for another party, I can assure you, I'm not sure it would have scored up to 1,500 votes. So it tells you clearly that the reason why PDP had this poor showing was because of the internal wrangling as a result of the primary or the gubernatorial primary of the party that produced this candidate. It's as simple as that.
So would you say this is a clear indictment on the fire-share leadership of the PDP in Ekiti State?
Yes, it is. And that's why people are saying that he sold the PDP to the APC. Because how do you explain the emergence of a candidate that, is this unpopular for a party that just 4 years ago was the ruling party in the state? And one would expect that till date, they still have all of the structures. And then having also, lost somebody like a strong, ally like Shegwoni, and you saw the votes that he garnered even in an unknown party. So if he had remained in PDP and he had gotten the ticket in PDP, and then with the clout and the influence that he had, coupled with maybe some he would have been able to pull from the APC, he probably would have done better, far better than this. Than, a candidate who wasn't on ground. You say, okay, there was vote buying, he couldn't buy. There was campaign, he couldn't campaign. And what just played out is the fact that, okay, yes, the party is still very relevant. And like Nelson has said, and like, my brother Aigbe also said, yes, the party is relevant. They admit that, yes, they still have structures on ground. And so they were still out of sympathy, so that it does not seem as if we abandon our party. They still voted for the party, not necessarily the candidate, maybe a few also for the candidate. So that's basically why you see, at Ekiti, that ordinarily would have been a battleground for PDP, they were easily overrun. Yeah,
that's very surprising. But let's quickly talk about the turnout. This is where I want Omori to come in now. You look at the turnout at this election, the total number of registered voters, 989,224. But then look at the number of accredited voters, 365,438. Help us to make sense of this, because obviously you would think now, especially at this period where the voter awareness is actually high, people are rushing to collect their PVCs, that turnout at the election would have been very huge. But unfortunately, just around 36%.
is even a drop compared to the 2018 election.
Yeah.
The total number of valid, accredited voters in 2018 is higher than this. I don't have the number off my head, but it's higher than this figure. But it's not bad compared with previous election, particularly the Anambra gubernatorial election or Ondo of 2020, and the Edo of 2020. This is huge now. But just to quickly comment on the voter awareness of people going to collect their PVC, that has nothing to do with the Ekiti state at all. It's a national kind of ideological content. It's people who want to vote in 2023 that is moving. If you check the number of people who collected their ballot, their PVC in Ekiti is around 700,000. But when you now know half of the number actually turned out to vote, if you use your percentile to look at collected PVC and turnout of voter, you'll be looking at close to 50% of voters. Because I know if you didn't collect your PVC, arguably you're not going to vote in this election. Yeah. So usually when we use registered voters to justify the outcome, I would rather we change that, because the Electoral Act has also improved on this architecture. The Electoral Act no longer see registered voters as justification for the turnout. It's looking at those who register. So overvoting now is no longer based on registered voters. It is now based on accredited voters. So let's focus on those who had PVC, and of course those who turn out, and then try to measure up. So what we need to do, this is not the best. It's a drop compared to 2018, but it's a better figure compared to previous elections.
I also speak to the number of rejected votes there. You would think that Ekiti, well known as a fountain of knowledge, people very educated, highly educated in that state. However, that you should not be having, you shouldn't be having this number, this high number of rejected votes.
The number just sounds as if it's organized number, 8,888, 888. I don't know what that means, but just to tell you that it worries. Either people who just got angry and put their vote in between the two parties just to scatter the vote. But the good news is that 8,888 doesn't make any difference. It didn't make any difference compared to the margin of vote between the winner and the second runner.
No doubt it doesn't make any difference, but it's also worrying when you have this high number.
It's huge. It's too huge.
What this means basically is that you have a lot of old people who are voters in Ekiti, because, mind you, we don't look at these statistics.
That's probably one of the explanations.
Yes, that's one of the explanations. You have a lot of old people who are voters in Ekiti. Some of them, will even, need aid to vote. And then, mind you, some of these people in voting will not be as careful as when a young person is voting. That's why you have, some of these invalid votes when, they are not able to properly thumbprint in the space. And then quickly, I must add this. Oh, sorry, Nelson. I must also add this. Mind you, in the build up to the election, you saw other fringe political parties endorsing the ruling party candidate before the election. That also assisted, in the numbers and the margin of the ruling candidate. And then on the number of the registered voters, this brings me to this issue of PVC tsunami. INEC had consistently said that they have still a quite large number of PVCs uncollected. To register for PVC is not the issue, it is the collection. I've been a volunteer for INEC to distribute PVCs. A lot of people have abandoned, and what we are very good at is we abandon these PVCs the moment elections are over until the next election is approaching. So you find out the number of PVCs collected, 700-something thousand collected, and some of them are in Lagos here, who went back home to register. On the day of election, they don't go back home to vote. Some of them are using these PVCs as ID card, for banking transactions. So, and also some persons also would have died, in between this time.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of these people who didn't go back home to vote because they have registered in back home, but they lived in Lagos or live in Abuja or live in outside of the state. So that's why consistently you see, unlike last election, it was about 400-something thousand. But now that the process had also been cleaned up, so you see consistently the number as we improve in the process, the number will continue to reduce until we're able to get equilibrium, a balance of the actual number of voters.
In addendum to what Liberals have said about the number of rejected votes, that majorly it tells you that this could have been as a result of aged people coming out to vote. I can tell you categorically clear that if you were at that election, the people that came out to vote massively were the aged ones. The young ones were virtually absent, because I'm sure if the young ones had been present, we won't have this huge number of rejected votes. So it tells you clearly that despite all the clamor for the young ones to go and register and vote, they are still not heeding the call.
Well, gentlemen, just one word from each of you before I let you go. But let me start from you, Omori. Would you say the election in Ekiti is a significant improvement now in terms of INEC's performance?
Well over significant improvement. Improvement in the pace of the use of beavers, improvement in the manner in which the timing of starting of poll, improvement across the board. Come up to INEC, but there's still more work to do to make the cubicle more secret. We need to work ahead in Osun election. Let's make the cubicle, the place of voting, to be really secret ballot system.
Liberals, I mean, for me, this election is probably the first in this country where the results, we all knew the results even before INEC announced it, you know. The way the results were uploaded and all of that. I mean, so what's your take on the process?
Yeah, for me, the process is, we've improved. A far, improvement from the 2007 where we're coming from. And so what this tells me is that people should have, faith in the process. And now you see that no matter how much you try to monetize the process or you rig the process, you can only rig where you are popular. And so that's why people should learn to participate more in the process. Because, lastly, I will say, you cannot be a human being in Nigeria if government says you are not. Everything revolves around government. And then this is the only opportunity you have to select who represents you in government, and then you abdicate that responsibility. It means you don't really want a better country. So if you want a better country, learn to participate in the process of selecting who leads you.
Nelson, I know you've monitored several elections in this country. How would you rate this one?
Oh, well, for this election, everybody has unanimously applauded INEC, and I cannot say more. INEC has done very, very well. It has also come out again to re-emphasize the fact that, like in business, the voters are now the king. They are the ones that determine who wins the ballot. And so we must encourage our people to continue to, have faith in democracy. It is the only way to go. So kudos to the people of Ekiti State, for speaking with their votes. And kudos to INEC as well. Absolutely, absolutely.
At least for the first time, we didn't have problems with logistics, deployment.
And torchlight results.
Exactly. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Omori Aigbe, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your insights there. Libros Oshoma, thank you very much too for coming on the program.
Always my pleasure.
Nelson, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.